Hey guys, today I want to do something a little bit differently. I'm going to show you a Strider collection unlike any of I have seen before, and it belongs to a good friend of mine. And because this knife collection is so special, I wanted to do it in a special setting. And so here we are in the library of a very nice estate, and I'm really excited to show you these pieces. And so let's get started. And we'll start by looking at some of the knives that made Strider knives and Mick Strider famous. So these two knives are SMF shapes. And really, the knife that made Mick Strider famous was the Strider SnG, a bit smaller than these two knives, but the same shape, as you are probably aware. And so when people think of Strider knives, they most frequently think of knives such as these. This first one being a black Lego SMF, unremarkable in the fact that it's not a special material. There are many of these were made. And now we have a Tad Gear knife, a special SMF that was made with this green green G10, and of course the quite obvious 3 lines that denote that it's a Tad Gear special knife, and a really cool Digicam pattern on the blade. And so these are the knives that most people think of when they think of Strider knives and Mick Strider. But Mick is also a great craftsman and makes fantastic custom knives. And I'd like to take let's take a look at some of the knives that Mick can create when he is putting his mind to it and making some customs. And so the first thing I want to take a look at is an SnG that is, the shape is becoming more familiar. It's very similar to the performance series of SnGs that Mick is making, but this is a full custom. It has the titanium handles as well as the 3 lines going through the handle. The blade has a nightmare grind spear point shape, with of course the 3 grinds being the hollow grind at the back portion of the blade, a front grind at the front of the blade near the tip, and of course the swedge. In addition to this SnG, there's also another special SnG that I'd like to show you. And this one has a 6K blade with a harpoon grind. A very interesting grind, and very comfortable, I might add, when you place your thumb right in that harpoon location. Being that it's a 6K blade, it's non-magnetic. So this being titanium handle, titanium hardware, and non-magnetic blade makes it very concealable. So let's go back to the SMF shape. This is a custom SMF. It was a collaboration between Jeremy Horton and Mick Strider. An interesting story between Jeremy and Mick, but I'll discuss that a little bit later. This one was actually made out of a strike plate titanium. So that blade is a titanium blade, and of course Jeremy put his signature platinum grind on it, which makes it quite like a mirror, actually. And then of course you have the titanium handles. Now, in addition to these titanium handled knives, which are exquisite in their own right, Mick is known for his Damascus work. And I wanted to show you a couple of Damascus pieces that are quite remarkable. The first was made by Miss Marissa Strider. This one is a PT model, so it's smaller than the SnG, smaller than the SMF. And of course it's completely made out of Damascus. Damascus handle, Damascus blade, and it's just a phenomenal piece to look at and to carry. The penultimate of this collection is a Mick Strider custom, newly released, newly made. It was purchased at the G7 gathering this past year. This is an SnG XL with the Yeti grind. Completely handmade, hand-forged Damascus. So we have a fully Damascus handle, Damascus blade, Tonto recurve with an insane swedge, and then the lock side, also Damascus, pocket clip Damascus. This is a top-tier piece made by Mick Strider. So now I want to take a closer look at each individual knife and kind of get into the details of that knife. So let's get started. So let's start our in-depth discussion on the SnG, which is a very famous model that Mick introduced quite some time ago. And so up top we have a Performance Series inspired SnG. So the Performance Series is something that Mick has started recently, but this is completely handmade compared to the Performance Series. The handles are 6AL 4V titanium, made with the Lego configuration. That is to say that they have sharp 90-degree angles compared to the CC model, which we'll take a look at in a short bit. This is also the first time, not this particular knife, but certainly this series of knives, that Mick introduced a deep carry pocket clip. Some people love it. Other people are more used to their typical Strider clip. Certainly just a personal preference kind of thing. What's interesting about these two knives is that they're both nightmare grinds. However, they do have their own personalities in the grind. So if we look at the SnG on the bottom, the grind lines are a little bit closer to this choil here compared to the SnG on the top, which has the grind lined a lot closer to the tip. Certainly two different flavors of the same nightmare shape. Makes them very interesting to have them as a pair. The bottom SnG is pretty interesting. As I mentioned, it has a 6K blade compared to the top model, which has a CTS 204P blade. The 6K blade was designed for EOD teams. It is non-magnetic, and as such, does not pose a threat to EOD teams in their duties of bomb disposal. It's made out of primarily cobalt, which is replacing the carbon. There is, I believe, 1% carbon in the 6K blade, but it is non-magnetic. It does hold an edge very well. And here we can see the difference in the pocket clips. Of course, the standard Strider pocket clip that has been used for many years now, and then that loop over deep carry pocket clip. And similarly, the handles are a bit different. You might be able to see there the radiusing for the CC. Again, this is a 6AL 4V titanium blade. Handle. Another interesting piece on this particular blade is the harpoon, which actually locks into the thumb very, very comfortably, very well. And then there's interesting scalloping, like a dragon's tail or dragon's back on the top spine here of this SnG. Both of these are exquisite pieces, and I know both of these are carried by their owner pretty frequently, actually. I know he's a fan of the SnG shape, and many people are. These two knives are excellent carry pieces and are just the kind of knife that you can be proud to carry because it's an exquisite piece, but is also a very usable knife. So we're going to move on to the SMF now. So this piece is a collaboration between Jeremy Horton and Mick Strider. Jeremy Horton tells the story that he got into knife making because he wasn't able to purchase an SMF. And so that makes this collaboration very special. Obviously, Jeremy is has a following of his own, and so being able to collaborate with Mick on an SMF is a pretty cool feat. But what makes this knife extra special is that it is actually made out of beta strike plate titanium. That is to say that this is made from a sheet of titanium that could stop a bullet. This is rated level 4 strike plate, so I do believe that it could stop up to a .308 round. Now, of course, it's been ground, there's a hole in it, so I don't know if I would put this knife in front of my chest, but from the factory, this is a life-saving piece of metal. So if we can actually take a closer look, we'll be able to see the numbering. I believe it's the serial number there that it came from ATI, the manufacturer of the metal, as well as the markings indicating that it is just level 4. And then right below the stop pin is the Horton H logo. Naturally, because this is a sharpened titanium blade, we have the carbonized edge right along there. And much like the other two knives that I showed you already. This has a 6AL4V titanium handle. This has the CC, concealed carry, and which makes it very comfortable. Jeremy does put a insane grind on his knives. He has what's called he calls the platinum grind. So he has this insane amount of secondary bevel space, and it is quite nearly a complete mirror polish. What's interesting is that there are two different MSC logos in this collection. Of course, this one just being MSC, and the previous SnG that I showed off having his flying skull type logo. That being Mick's flying skull type logo. So now we're going to switch gears. We've been going to SnG to SMF, increasing in size. Now we're going to have two different pieces that are a bit dichotomous in size. We're going to move on to the PT and the Yeti. So these two knives are very special. As you can tell, they're more ornate, and they take a lot more work to make than the previous knives that we've discussed. The first one on the bottom is a Marissa Strider Custom PT. So the PT is much smaller than the SnG. And then the top model handmade by Mick Strider. And this one is an SnG XL Nightmare Grind Yeti. What makes these extremely, extremely special, very unique, is that these two knives are made out of a Mick Strider handmade, Marissa Strider handmade forged Damascus. So what the Strider clan do, is now I'm going to call them henceforth, they make their own Damascus by taking sheets of 1095, cobalt, and nickel. They layer them 700 sheets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 700. They wrap them with wire and stick them into a hot forge. After some time, they remove the sheet of metal. They hammer it. They hammer it till it's roughly the size of a knife. And at that point, you have a finish like this. So this is a hot hammered finish. It's unfinished compared to the handle of the Marissa Strider PT, which is finished. What's amazing is you can actually see the level of detail, the different bumps and ridges inside of this handle. And there's different colors. So if we can get the light to bounce and play in different directions, you see golds and blues and purples. And each different color is a different layer. So each metal has its own color. So if we can see yellows and golds here, that's actually a different layer of metal than the blues and purples we're seeing here, to make it an extra layer of difficulty, of ornateness. Mick has added these grooves, these horizontal grooves, which match very nicely with the lanyard hole. I hope you can see this, but there's actually lines inside of those grooves that alternate up and down. And it's a fantastic, fantastic piece full of such detail. If we look back towards the blade, we see the lines that are created when you surface grind. So if you take the handle material, surface grind it so that it's completely flat, that's what you start getting here on this blade. And you start seeing the rings, and you can follow these rings around the entire blade. It's mesmerizing. It's not hard looking at this knife for 15 minutes and just finding new things across the whole knife. The Nightmare grind, the Yeti grind, is just fantastic. If you look at both sides, it's hard to do on a camera, but if you look at both sides, they're perfectly ground. They match perfectly. Much like the 6K SnG, this top spine has gotten that dragon spine, that dragon back. And of course, the locking side is also completely hammer finished Damascus. And naturally, the clip is a hammer finished Damascus. It's a fantastic piece, but in her own right, Marissa has also done a fantastic job. And the finish on this handle is a bit different. It has been surface ground and then contoured a bit, and then there are striations vertically in this orientation. The shape is a little bit different than we typically see on Striders, more of a bowie shape, and has a circle as opposed to the oval that we see again in most of the Strider shapes. But it's an excellent little knife, a great EDC. It's just one of those knives that you can carry it and use it, and it's actually a usable, functional piece of art. Again, Damascus clip, and still more jimping, more edging, more coin work on the spine of this blade. Like I said, that these knives, it's easy to just stare at these knives and go over them 15, 30 minutes at a time and not get bored. It's fantastic watching the fruit of Mick's work. If you look at the grooving around the handle, you can actually see the lines from the Damascus. It's truly a fantastic piece. So thank you for watching as we've taken this exciting journey through the custom knives made by Mick Strider to one of his best works, this SnG XL Yeti, and probably to date Marissa Strider's most exquisite work. Well, as always, thank you YouTube for watching. Be dressed to play and geared to slaughter. See ya.